And we are live. Baseball is back, folks. Tuesday, September 30th. It's October. Tomorrow. Baseball is here. We're starting off the playoffs in style. 4 games today, spread out across the entire day. Like, subscribe, notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter. I'm excited to talk about this one. I got to be honest. September sucks when it comes to talking about baseball. It's not a good time. You know? Like, it's just a lot. It's just a lot. Oh, that's fun. Anyway. It's a different style of baseball. Not most of the teams are out. A lot of the teams have already clinched. So September is mostly awful. But today we get 4 real playoff baseball games. We've got some very interesting pricing to talk about. I'm excited to break this one down. We're here today. So let's figure it all out. And obviously, we've got 4 games. 8 stacks, 8 starting pitchers. We're going to have time to dig into, I don't want to say everything because that would be silly, but we got a lot of time here. And we don't have to go deep diving into like some rando 5K 24-year-old call up with AA data and nothing else. Skubal, Crochet, Snell, Fried, Williams, Greene, Pivetta, Boyd. I mean, we're here for it. We're here for it. Only one team today has an implied total over 4. Obviously, the Dodgers. The Cleveland Guardians have a run total under 3 because they face Tarik Skubal. 2.8 run implied total for Cleveland today. And it appears, at least, that it's the Skubal show. 10K is your most expensive pitcher on the road in Cleveland. 42% chance of a top 2 score. No one else is in the 30s. Crochet at 9,700 is your second highest mark at 29%. So that's a 13 percentage point gap in top 2 pitcher between Skubal and Crochet. That also makes Skubal a decent value at 27% top 2. Top value of the day is Gavin Williams at 7K on the opposite side of this game. But 26.8% is the second highest value mark for Skubal. Because he looks that good, he is also projected for 66% ownership. Then you get Crochet, Snell, and Fried, all in and around like 28%. Crochet slightly higher, Snell slightly lower. Salaries and top 2 odds are all pretty similar. You take a little bit of a step back to Gavin Williams for value at 20%, and then it falls off a cliff. Matt Boyd, 5% owned. Nick Pivetta, 10% owned. Hunter Greene, 11% owned. And that's the guy that we're going to take a look at a little bit later. 20% top 2 pitcher odds, 11.5% ownership. Terrible spot. But we're going to look at that one too. I guess let's start with Skubal. Although, let me run a sim first, since we're here. Perfect. All right, let's run a sim. Steven, I don't hate that. I'm not gonna lie. I like Snell. When I run this sim and when we start looking at the output, I think everybody's gonna be on Team Snell. NFL strategy show happened before this from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. So if you didn't see that one, it's up on our YouTube channel. It'll be up on our podcast feed as well. You don't want to miss that. No football tonight. It's Tuesday. No live before lock tonight. Obviously, this one locks in about 2 hours. But we do have an NHL best ball stream tonight at 8 o'clock. Definitely don't want to miss that one. I think I have one more thing I want to show here. Can I find it? Let's go to the picks feed on Tails. So I got something for you guys. I mean, Jake's dropping hockey preseason bets. That's always fun. Where's it hiding? Oh, what do you have here? Friend of the program, EMAC in the house. Typically writing up pitchers and stacks. That is up on Tails at this moment. So you can see what EMAC has here. He put this up about an hour and a half ago. You can go to OddsShopper.com, click on the Tails Expert Picks feed. This is totally free. Not only did EMAC write up some baseball, I wrote up my top stacks. I wrote up my top pitchers. Greg's got some baseball bets out there right now. EMAC also more baseball stuff. So you want to make sure you're following us all on Tails. Again, the picks feed, totally free. Not going to cost you anything at all to do this. And you're just going to get some extra information. So I hope you guys want to check that stuff out. All right, sims are done. Let's grab the top 150 lineups and take a peek here. And you'll see very immediately, very different exposures than when I ran this the first time. Tarik Skubal, 65% owned, showed up in 70% of lineups. The big stand that we are taking is Gavin Williams. 7K, projected 20% owned, showed up in 57% of our lineups. Fantastic sim ROI data as well. And then it's neutral Blake Snell. We're actually under on Fried. No bigger fade than Garrett Crochet. And then just running kind of neutral on Hunter Greene. Essentially don't have Pivetta or Boyd. I don't have much to say about Tarik Skubal. But let's hit the high notes just quickly. 30% K rate to lefties, 33% K rate to righties. Lefties don't touch him at all. 091 x ISO, 237 x WOBA. If you're a lefty, you can probably just draw a line through that dude. Righties, I mean, if anybody's going to hit him, it's righties. 155 x ISO is still good. 273 x WOBA is still good. 19% swinging strike rate for righties. Think about that for a second. When Tarik Skubal throws a pitch this season to right-handed hitters, there's a 19% chance that it ends up being a swinging strike. 1 out of every 5 strikes are swinging strikes. Guys just don't hit him. His stuff is nasty. It's so nasty. So then let's hop over to FanGraphs and we'll take a look at performance against lefties. And, you know, obviously everybody is still in here. Doesn't matter. We're trying to grade this stuff relatively speaking. Cleveland, 25th in WRC plus against left-handed pitching this season. Cleveland, the 7th highest strikeout rate. Cleveland, 135 ISO, bottom 10 ranking. So they stink against lefties. They strike out against lefties. They don't hit lefties with any sort of power. One more place to go for data. That would be the Guardians. Progressive Field. 90 park factor for homers. Limits power. 106 park factor for strikeouts. Increases strikeouts. So Skubal's got a matchup against a bad offense that strikes out, hits for no power, in a park that gives up no power, and plays up strikeouts. How the hell do we get away from him? For real. His strikeout prop on the opening day of the playoffs is 7.5 juiced to the over. That's 2 full strikeouts ahead of Gavin Williams. Crochet is at 7.5, but not with juice. Blake Snell's at 6.5, no juice. Hunter Greene's at 5.5. So everything looks great from Tarik Skubal there. We know that he's going to try to go deep. 18.5 outs prop, a little bit of juice to the under, and we're well aware that his earned run prop under 1.5 at minus 160. There's not a single thing that I see that would lead me to not want to have Tarik Skubal today. Everything is on our side here. You can be 65% owned. Looks good to me. Jay Nevy, I'll get to that in a bit. But the answer is I'm willing to have one bat against my pitcher no matter what. Although I probably wouldn't be looking for it too hard unless I knew that that was a bat that wouldn't get pinch hit for. We got to look at Gavin Williams on the opposite side of this one, because that's where things start to get a little tricky. Well, let's start in the prop market, actually. I think that's a little bit easier. So over 1.5 earned runs at minus 140. That's still a really good mark normally. The strikeout prop, as we mentioned before, 5.5 juice to the over. Gavin Williams expected to go 5 innings, which is not surprising at all. Like, if his first time through the order is going well, he's going to be able to stay out there and face the second part, or face the order the second time through until he hits any struggles. The first one goes great, he'll get the 4th, he'll get the 5th. But we all know this. When we get to the playoffs, there's no messing around. If things get a little squirrely in like the bottom of the top of the 3rd, he's got, 1 out, 2nd and 3rd. He could be gone depending on who's on the or at the dish. So that is the only real concern here. But the prop market is great. The exposure that we're getting to now is the biggest stand. So what does Detroit look like? Well, let's look at Gavin Williams, I guess, first. Williams, 25.5% K rate to lefties, 1,500 pitches. 197 X ISO, a little scary. 331 X WOBA, a little scary. That's a pretty big gap. For 1,500 pitches, 37 points of X ISO, and holy shit, 62 points of WOBA. Righties are pretty flat. 155 X ISO, 325 X WOBA, 23% K rate. Look, Gavin Williams is good. He's just not Tarik Skubal. So if we look at Detroit against righties, let's look at the opposite side here. So Tigers, 19th in WRC plus. Whatever. Tied for 5th in strikeout rate, 24.2%. ISO, 13th. So middle of the pack offense, a little bit more strikeouts, not a good homer park. Yes, a good park to play up power. I can say this pretty comfortably. He looks amazing as a 7K arm with 20% ownership. I am not at all surprised to see that positive leverage. I love Gavin Williams here today. Does he need to succeed? Or will he succeed? I don't know. But I think the easiest way to describe Gavin Williams is this. We have 4 pitchers between 25 and 29% top 2. For all intents and purposes, those are the same numbers. That's a 4 percentage point gap. He's 25 and a half, 3.5 percentage points behind Garrett Crochet. The least owned of those 4 guys. One's 9,700, one's 9,200, one's 8,700, and one is 7K. He's $1,700 cheaper than Max Fried, has the same projection, less ownership. What am I missing here? Is he less likely to get a win today? Yeah, of course, because Skubal's on the opposite side. I couldn't begin to care. Gavin Williams is the easiest guy to roster today. Now, maybe we find out that like that salary isn't as important. But everything to me is on Gavin Williams' side. I wouldn't change a single thing here. I'm very happy with the exposure of Skubal. And I'm very happy with the exposure of Gavin Williams. What I'm curious about is anybody off? Like for Crochet and Snell and Fried, they're all basically right at their ownership and top two pitcher at the same time. I want to dig into Hunter Greene. So chat, this question's for you before we get into it. What are your thoughts on Hunter Greene today? Price tag looks good at 8,200. We know the strikeout stuff is there. But at 11% ownership, that's the biggest leverage play that we have today. Now, we know what we're getting, and it's a dreadful matchup in LA. So just to touch on Hunter Greene's stats quickly, 33% K rate to lefties, 30 to righties. Lefties tee off, 223 x ISO, but it's only power. 307 x WOBA. It's homers or nothing. Against righties, it's just nothing. 129 x ISO, 258 x WOBA. This is where the problem starts. WRC plus. Dodgers are 5th. Walk rate, 2nd. K rate, 21st. ISO, 5th. And if you've been watching this show before, this is the real problem in playing the Dodgers. And it's not just the fact that they have infinite money like they're owned by the Saudis. 142 is the park factor in LA for homers this year. It's the highest home run park factor that Dodger Stadium has ever had. The next highest since 1998 was 130 in 2021. This is 12 percentage points ahead of it. That makes things very difficult for Hunter Greene. Let me pull up our projections. Yeah, Josh, Dodgers lefties is that is the statement. So if we look at Dodgers, the lineup that we have projected right now. Shohei Ohtani. I shouldn't have to say anything else for how he looks today against Hunter Greene. Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy. But then you get to these guys that don't really have a ton of pop. Tommy Edman in the 7 hole, 7% chance of a homer. Conforto in the 6 hole, just shy of 10%. Rorvet, 2,100, 7% chance of a homer. So there are 3 spots here, Ohtani, Freeman, and Muncy, that aren't fun at all. Edman, Conforto, Rortvet, a little bit more manageable. And then you've got my boy Pages, Teoscar, Mookie Betts. It's all about this right here. Ohtani, Freeman, Muncy. That's a death sentence for Hunter Greene. Because in theory, in an optimal Hunter Greene start today, he's going to have 6 plate appearances against those guys. If we get more than that, that's just good. Things are obviously going incredible. Ohtani, Freeman, Muncy hitting 1st, 3rd, and 4th. Hunter Greene's going to have to get through those 3 guys twice. How we feel about that likelihood is how we feel about getting to a Hunter Greene that is likely underowned. Reminder, Hunter Greene sitting at basically 15 and a half outs, something in that neighborhood, maybe more like 15. I mean, everything's like kind of under 15 and a half. You're hoping for 5 innings. But the strikeout prop is there for what we have. 5.5, heavy juice to the over. He can get to 6. Now, We got 10% of him in the Sims, 10% owned in the pool. If I give Hunter Greene a 10% boost, can we 2x him? Because that's what I would like to do there. I don't know why I saved the top 20. That was not the answer. Top 50, 150 lineups. Pages has 3 home runs and 5 at-bats against Hunter Greene. I will be sure to weight that with 0 weight. All right, 10% bump to Greene took us from 10 to 20. Exactly what I want here. Exactly what I want. The other side that I think we need to look at for pitching is the spot where we get different. Because we just looked at Hunter Greene to get different. Ronald Hill just sort of mentioned it. He said the Sims do not like Wrigley pitchers with the winds blowing in. Could one of the two be sneaky? So we've got Nick Pivetta and Matt Boyd. Pivetta $500 more expensive than Gavin Williams. $6,500 for Matt Boyd. What did I lose by increasing Greene? Looks like a little bit of Fried and a little bit more of Crochet, I think. Let's look at these two guys in Chicago. So Boyd neutralizes lefties completely. 23% K rate. 21% K rate to righties. Gives up a little bit more power. Nothing too crazy here for Matt Boyd. If we look at lefties, San Diego is 13th against lefties. Now, they don't strike out at all. 17.9% K rate against lefties. Second lowest in baseball. But 138 ISO, 12th. It's on the low side. It's certainly not on the high side. So you're not super worried about San Diego, like, in any real appreciable way. And if we do want to take a quick look at Wrigley, we've got a 112 home run park factor. Wrigley's a wild park because it's just something different all the time. Plays up strikeouts at least a little bit, but park isn't much of a concern for me here. We've got Boyd at 3.5 Ks juiced to the over. Now, that's not all that surprising. I mean, if he got to 4, you'd be pretty happy. This is not a strikeout matchup. The outs prop, going to tell an even bigger story. 14.5 heavy juice to the over. The goal is going to be to get 5 innings out of Matt Boyd. Earned run prop, 1.5 juice to the over. I think it's pretty easy to make the argument that Matt Boyd should be more than 4.7% owned today with a 3.6% or 3.6 run implied total. I mean, his top 2 pitcher odds are like 2.5 times his ownership. Not to mention, he's obviously a great value at 6,500. The question then is Pivetta better on the opposite side? So Pivetta, bigger strikeout stuff for sure. 26% K rate to lefties and righties. Gives up massive power, hypothetically. That's a 90-point gap in ISO. 197 X ISO versus 108 ISO against lefties. It's another 41 percentage points against righties. So hypothetically gives up a lot more power. On paper, hasn't really done it, which is tricky, I guess. So if we look at Cubs against righties, 10th in WRC plus, 24th overall in strikeout rate, so pretty low. And they do give up a bit more power. Chicago is 8th in ISO. Now, from a props perspective, Pivetta is basically in the same range of earned runs. If we look at the strikeouts prop for Pivetta, 4.5 juice to the over. He's basically a full strikeout ahead of Boyd. And then in terms of outs, same. So we're looking at Pivetta and Boyd as two guys that we're hoping are going to throw 5 innings, or at least one of them is going to throw 5 innings. Both of these guys are pretty significantly under-owned based on the top pitchers tool. I got to be honest with you guys. I think pitching is the easiest way to make your lineup different. And once you determine your pitching, I think the hitting just like funnels into that after the fact. But I would like to, like, if Pavetta's 10, I'd like to have 20. If Boyd's 5, I'd like to have 10 to 15. I would like 20, 20, and 10 to 15 on those bottom 3 guys. What does it look like if I do that? So we've got the Hunter Greene piece. I'm going to give Pavetta a 15 percentage point bump and a Boyd 15 percentage point bump. I don't know what we're going to get, but I want to know what it looks like to get to them. So those bumps, maintained Hunter Greene. We got to 6% Pavetta and 3% Matt Boyd. So we need even more than that. I don't want to go too far. 25 and 25. Hunter Greene's at 17, Pavetta up to 14, still only got Boyd to 8. The takeaway here is that it ends up pulling from Garrett Crochet. And if we look at the stacks after this, it's a runaway Boston Red Sox. They have 41% of all of my hitting exposure, basically 20 percentage points clear of the New York Yankees. Let's see what a single lineup sim looks like. I'm not worried about the stack. I want to play around with the 2 pitching options. So, Gavin Williams is absolutely going in first. And I'm going to avoid Skubal to start. This is going to be infinite salary. Gavin Williams, Matt Boyd. If I just take whatever's optimal after that, Cincy, Dodgers, Boston, Dodgers, Boston, Dodgers, Yankees, Cubs. So 3-man Dodgers stack, 2-man Boston stack. So it's a 3-2-1-1-1. I'm going to take one of those ones and make the stack a little bit stronger. So can I get a 4th Dodger from somewhere? Easiest value option for a Dodger is Conforto. Freddie Freeman already in the lineup. Max Muncy already in the lineup. If I lock Gavin Williams and Matt Boyd, Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy, and Shohei Ohtani, I need one more Dodger. I want it to either be a catcher or an outfielder to replace Seiya Suzuki. Because I don't want to replace Judge. I'll let it do that. And I'd prefer to not take either of the Red Sox bats out, but I might have to. If I take out Seiya Suzuki for Michael Conforto, and I clear Judge, Story, Romy Gonzalez, we have 47.50 for a catcher, a second baseman, a shortstop, and an outfielder. We get Stevenson, Romy Gonzalez. We actually ended up adding in Betts at short, turned it into a 5-man Dodgers, kept Judge. So we have Judge, Ohtani, no problems, double pay down pitcher, $1,000 on the table. Let's see what it looks like. Just 6.5%. Now, I'm not surprised. We didn't go into that trying to make a stack. I wanted to see what Gavin Williams and Matt Boyd would look like. Let's actually dive into the stacks if we can. And by the way, guys, don't forget, sign up at Stokastic for whatever it is that you're looking for on the DFS side. There are links in the description. You can sign up with one of our partners, get a month of sims for whichever sport you're looking for, and it's not going to cost you anything to us. Just make a small deposit at one of the partners, which you can obviously just turn into more money. Obviously, baseball's here. We've still got some more slates. NFL is every Monday, Thursday, Sunday all day, and Sunday night. So I assume a lot of you want NFL coverage. We've got the best in the world. So come check it out. NBA is going to be here in 3 weeks. I've been dropping team previews on my Twitter at Josh Engelman every single day, along with a futures bet for each team, which you can track alongside tails. Very interesting betting options that I've had so far. Sign up for everything Stokastic and OddsShopper related with the links in the description. Let's talk stacks. Because this is where it gets a little this is even weirder than pitching. So basically, we have one team that no one's using. Cleveland against Skubal. 5% top stack, 4% owned, lowest stack score. Padres, Cubs, Yankees, Tigers, Red Sox, and Reds all have essentially the same top stack score. The more top stacky teams have less value. The less top stacky teams have more value. And then you've got the Dodgers at the top, which is unsurprising. Great offense, great park, home run prone Hunter Greene. They have the highest top stack odds. They actually have some decent value because of the bottom of their lineup. And they're technically the most owned team at 18%. They are the top of the stack score. But this sort of goes back to building that lineup in the single lineup sim. I think making your decisions at pitcher is easy. And then whatever you do there just kind of informs what you're doing with the rest of your stack. Like clearly, there's nothing else I can say now about the Dodgers that we haven't already discussed. We've touched on San Diego. We've touched on Chicago. We know what both of those guys look like. Cleveland, I can't even imagine wanting to stack them. But we got to talk about Boston, because that's the team that showed up the most in the Sims. Runaway. So they're going up against Max Fried. Fried absolutely ends lefties. 30% K rate, 15% swinging strike rate, 158x ISO. Now, righties don't hit him for anything relevant. 121x ISO, 302x WOBA, but he's dominant there. But the strikeout rate falls off a cliff. 21.5% K rate against righties for Max Fried this year. If we want to just think about that for a second. There's not a lot of strikeouts in this lineup. Duran is the only lefty in our expected lineup against Fried. The rest of this is 8 righties. And if that's the case, this is essentially a 21 to 22% strikeout guy. You can throw the 30 right in the garbage. Jared Duran's batting 7th. So if Fried faces Duran twice, then Fried's probably just been pretty good. But that's not threatening at all. If he goes through the order twice, 16 plate appearances are going to be against righties, guys that he strikes out at a 21.5% clip. So Fried's not going to be stacking up strikeouts in this matchup, or at least it certainly doesn't seem like he will. So the question then is, well, if he doesn't give up a ton of power, but he's not going to strike these guys out, do we like Boston? Do we not like Boston? Because I certainly find them interesting. On the season against lefties for this active roster for the Red Sox, 17th in WRC plus. Now they do K a bit. They are 10th in strikeout rate. 152 ISO, middle of the pack as well. It's a very middle of the pack spot. But I think that lineup is mildly to Boston's advantage. Here's what I think is scary here. Because I think this comes down to like a BABIP game. If this goes the way that I think it's going to go, it's not going to be a power situation for Boston. Fried doesn't strike me as someone that's just going to rack up Ks in this spot. It feels like a game we're really trying to dodge in a way. I can say this unequivocally. I don't like the 40% of Boston that we were getting. Because I think for this to go super well for Boston, we need one of those innings where it's like walk, single, walk, double. That's, to me, that's the way that Boston gets to Fried today, is hit luck. The balls just find holes, and then they get through Fried. But I don't see this as a lot of strikeouts. I think it's a lot of contact and base runners. And at that point in time, you're just rolling the dice. I don't really like it. It's fascinating to me to see San Diego and Chicago be technically second and third in top stack. Cincy is a wild option today. Because they get every benefit of being in Dodger Stadium as well. They're used to playing in a park that's dope. But Snell ends lefties. Snell ends righties. Nobody hits this dude. Nobody at all. Not to mention, Cincinnati is 27th WRC plus against lefties. Middle of the pack in K rate. And truly the most interesting stat we're going to look at here. No team has hit for less power this season against lefties than the Cincinnati Reds, which is crazy because ISO isn't park adjusted. And these guys played 81 games in Cincinnati, and they still have the lowest ISO against lefties. So, like, is it crazy to say that I don't like anything? Boston seems unfun. Cincy seems unfun. Obviously, I like the lefty bats in the Dodgers lineup, but we named those guys. It's 3 of them. Anything can happen in San Diego and Chicago, and I'd believe it. You know, obviously, Judge, Stanton, that righty power for New York stands out. I personally think that the scariest thing to look at right now is the opposite side of the pitcher that I think is easiest to get to. Because we talked about all the benefits of what Gavin Williams can be. But what do we think here about Detroit? Is this a spot where if we're going to be that over on Gavin Williams, that we also want to make sure that we're getting to some Detroit? Let's sim a new lineup. And let's get a Detroit stack, which is going to mean that we're not going to get Gavin Williams. So we are going to go to Parker Meadows, Dingler, Kerry Carpenter, Torkelson, Gleyber Torres. After completing this lineup, we get Skubal, Crochet, Andahar, Ohtani, Bogarts, $100 left on the table. For reference, 97 projection, 217 ownership. For the last lineup we built, projection was close to 5 points lower, but we also gave up 46% ownership. This is a completely different lineup because it has Skubal and to a degree Ohtani. Yeah, 1.9% sim ROI. If I pull Ohtani, Bogarts, and Andahar, Ohtani has the highest projection, but I'd rather have Judge in that spot at lower ownership, slightly lower cost. Now, when I complete the lineup, that's not possible. Huh? It just filled out. I'm spending less salary now. That doesn't make any sense. All right, shortstop. Actually, third base. We have 3,400 for each guy. So if I just slot in, let's say Ahmed Rosario and Anthony Volpe. 5-man Detroit. Oh, I'm stacking against Crochet. I didn't even notice that. Well, let's get that. That's why that went weird, because of Judge. I didn't realize I had Crochet in there. Makes a lot more sense now. Let's slot in Tatis. Gives us Tatis, Story, Andahar, 95, 1, and 200. All right, we're climbing. We're climbing. We're up to 15% now. Let's just go to the nuts. What does a Dodgers stack look like? Ohtani in, Freeman in, Muncy in, Betts in, and then I'm going to bring Ben Rortvedt in. So I think that's easier for a stack. So we take on that Dodger stack. We get those lefties. We get Skubal and Fried, Ahmed Rosario, Seiya Suzuki, Parker Meadows, 98 projection, 225 ownership. I'm pretty sure this will be the best one we've built. Still just 16.5%. Having a lot of trouble building a good one. So now my only goal for what I'm going to do here is to build out what I think is the best lineup that we can find. So let's start at pitcher. We're going to sort by value. If we're building a lineup that we need to succeed, Gavin Williams has to be in it. The next question is, are we taking on too much ownership by going to Skubal? Or do we drop to Fried? We give up a little bit of value, but not much. We save a little bit of salary, but we also save 30-something% of ownership. I got to go to Fried here because I think he's more cost effective. I think we're buying ownership more efficiently. So then if we're thinking about value in the hitter spots and where we can actually go for a top stack, who's the best value hitter at like a real level? I don't like Cincy. I got a real tough time wanting to go to Detroit against Gavin Williams. In theory, I have a very tough time wanting to go to Cleveland against Skubal. This strikes me as something that's leaning towards San Diego or Chicago. part of me prefers the Yankees, but I think San Diego and Chicago is going to be the spot. So there's definitely more raw projection at the top of the San Diego lineup. To a degree, the value as well. Bogarts is going in. Tatis is going in, Machado and Merrill. And then if I can, I'd like it to be a value Padre. Freddie Fermin is the answer, but he's really not a good baseball player. This kind of has to be Luis Arias in its second. And there's a particular reason why. We get that 5-man San Diego stack. Now, I might leave him out on a resim, but that leaves us an outfield spot, a first base spot, and a catcher. We should be able to get what is essentially the best catcher as long as it's not running into our own matchups. And then with 4,200 left, we're probably going to get one pretty good first or outfield bat when all is said and done here. So if we just fill out with the optimal, it ends up being Rortvedt, Freeman, and Ohtani. 5-man San Diego, 3-man Dodgers. Spends the full bag. 94 projection, 188 ownership. That's honestly probably pretty uneventful again. Something in that 10-15% range. I mean, 31 is nice. I do tend to think that Ohtani is the issue in that. I think I can build a better version of that through the Yankees, because Judge is 13% less owned, but barely a lesser value. So if I just simply get Judge, that gives me Goldschmidt and Carson Kelly. Does that improve this lineup? Because we did take a projection haircut. See? Slowly but surely chipping away here. 49% sim ROI by swapping out Ohtani for Judge. I'm going to micromanage this lineup for a second. Is there a better option than Goldschmidt? By all accounts, the answer is no. Second best value option, not that bad a value, which simply leads us to catcher. Now, the best value is Freddie Fermin, but he's not any good. The next best value is Ben Rortvedt. He has the second lowest projection of any catcher. What we're really looking for here, if I put Dingler in there against Gavin Williams, does this lineup improve at all because of that negative leverage? No, it does not. All right, if I pull Dingler and Luis Arias, we get Tommy Edman and Tyler Stevenson. Now, I don't need that in my life. But if we look at second base, we look at value again. We had Arias, who's 246. He's the 8th best value at second base today, but still getting ownership. We can cut that ownership in half if we want to. We could just take Ahmed Rosario at essentially the same ownership, but get some synergy with Judge and Goldschmidt. Now we just have catcher left for 4,100. We can take anybody we want, which in this case ends up being Tyler Stevenson. Leaves us 600 on the table. Now we have cut ownership dramatically, but we've also cut projection. But we also end up with the best possible lineup. That is what the single lineup simulator is here to do, guys. Slowly break it down. Build the lineup, see what you have. Then the first thing you want to do is look at the lineup and think, how can I either more efficiently spend my salary for fantasy points, or how can I more efficiently lower my ownership? That's why dropping $200 down from Ohtani to Judge barely changes our projection, but saves us 15% more in ownership. It's those little trade-offs that start to bring those levels up. So now we turn that lineup into a 4-man San Diego, 3-man Yankees, 1-off Cincy stack. It's the best thing that we've built. Did he already say who's sitting home runs today? Only sure things, please. Oh, Peter. You want me to look at these? Uh-huh. You know what I'm doing there? We want a guaranteed homer. I mean, if I'm giving out a guaranteed homer, give me Max Muncy. There's your guaranteed. There's your guaranteed. All right, let's sum it up. Pitching. I don't see a natural path to avoiding Tarik Skubal. He looks awesome. Gavin Williams is an excellent value. Certainly some downside, but underpriced at 7K for what we have today. Hunter Greene is a wild boom bust option today. He is also the highest leverage option in our top pitchers tool. And the ownership on Nick Pivetta and Matt Boyd make it at least mildly interesting to go to those guys to make your lineup construction a little different. When it comes to top stacks, I don't know if I have a lean. Clearly the Dodgers look good. The lefty power is going to be a problem. I'm really surprised to see San Diego and Chicago be second and third in ownership. I have to be honest. I don't see it. Yankees are certainly interesting against Crochet. Boston's certainly interesting against Fried, but I don't like the park. I can't imagine rostering Cleveland. I think Cincy's sneaky, but they also don't look very good. Whatever my pitchers are will dictate the construction of the rest of my lineup. That, I think, is where we stand today. But the lucky part of this for us, we're going to do this all again tomorrow. We've got another MLB slate tomorrow. We've got another MLB slate on Thursday. No baseball on Friday, but for the next 3 days, these are MLB streets. I know you guys are going to want to care about Thursday night football this week, but, you know, baseball's way more fun. Coach Chris says, I have a 5-man Pods, 2-man Cubs, 1-off Red Sox. Play ball. Well, guys, let me know how you feel about this slate. We're going to have baseball on. Lock in an hour. We're going to have baseball on all night. I hope you're enjoying it. Again, make sure you're going to Tails for some free picks and write-ups. OddsShopper.com, Tails Expert Picks feed. You can find it on my Twitter as well. But you're getting write-ups from all sorts of different stuff. A lot of people are just putting in picks, straight-up sports bets. I'm trying to drive some discussion, same as EMAC, writing up top pitchers and top stacks, stuff like that. If you want to see all of it, it's on the screen right now. Head to Tails. Good luck, everybody. I'll talk to you guys later.